Banjir Cipulir banjir, hujan deras, banyak yang mogok. Ada tusukan.
Jungke. Kemarin itu mobil tadi dia. Dekat ya kan? Alah, mah Gusti. Mana mobil tak? Alah, mah, bagi jero.
Jadi sekarang air sudah meluap memasuki satu rumah ke atas. Demikian sementara.
Di Jalan Bajak 3, Kelurahan Arjosari 2, Kecamatan Medan Amplas. Mudah-mudahan Pak Bobi dapat mengatasinya.
Kudunya anak kunyawa, sok sedang ngalung segera hari ini.
TK seserah rakyatan teh, lamun teu di kutamang kitu.
Akibat curah hujan besar dari malam sampai saat ini Ini gambar diambil dari lantai 2 Masjid Jami Hidayatul Falah.
Anjing. Dah.
Buka paling jam tiluan.
Ayo apa tadi ngaliwat ke mananya jalannya?
Bawa mobil asa oyang kana teh.
Tambak udang, Belangbang.
Banjir bandang.
Sudah bisa melewati jalan ini lagi. Garasi Pak Agus Darsana di sana.
Ini di Sungai Cipalebuh Pamengpeuk. Rumah-rumah di Sukapura sudah ada yang terendam.
Banjir di Kampung Cisegel, Desa Tegarwangi, Kecamatan Bantar Kalong. Tuh warga kerjasama buat gotong barang-barang.
yang ada motor itu jalan masih terlihat. Tapi sekarang udah terendam banjir.
Apakah ini yang tidak bakal 20 meter?
Hijau pecah. Anjing.
Kondisi rumah warga yang terendam banjir ya, daerah Cikeruh, desa Cikupa. Mohon izin menyampaikan untuk situasi debit air sudah naik ke wilayah jalan dan sudah nyampe ke batas satu rumah di atas jalan.
Kapan hujannya nih banjir di Jakarta? Ya atas sih gitu.
Jembatan penghubung antara Kampung Sakambangan dan Manar terputus dikarenakan hujan lebat tadi malam dari pukul 9.
Itu tinggal di rumah dulu, Pak. Alah, penawar kurang sih.
Jembatan Sekancil.
Anjir.
Rambut panas-panasan. Oh. Mah, tadi buka kamera. Dia bakal pernah. Pasangan yang gila.
Ngeri ya Allah. segleng sisina geus kakareueum. Aduh ya Allah. Lihat ke.
Dan pengungsi sudah itu mesti jam di sana.
Saat ini saya Ciplebuk, Bojong Mongkong, jalan Beum.
Banjir bandang pangumpul.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hari ini tim sudah tiba di lokasi banjir di wilayah Ciganjur.
Dah dekat Mangudin yang redak dekat Mangudin itu tarik ke. Oh, eta ibunya.
Ay, tanpa tahu parangit bayang kelap itu. Aduh, kumisah itu paling tidak Allah Akbar. Allah astagfirullahaladzim.
Hayır ya, Ziraat Bankası'nın solu.
Allah kalp krizi geçiriyordu. Dil ayağa tatlım. Ver çantanı bana.
Yakında dur, masanın önünde bir şey yakında. Güzel. ما نطلع من جهة الشغل. لا ما في شيء. ايوه. بس هذا يعني هي الاجازة كل صورة.
Oh God, who was not missing them or who was missing them? Man, they are, oh look on the top. Just see on the top.
India and Bangladesh are recovering from a powerful cyclone today. The monster storm ripped through the region yesterday, unleashing 100-mile-per-hour winds and dumping heavy rain along the coast. Dozens of people are dead, and many homes have been destroyed. There are also growing concerns over flash flooding in towns. Work to fix widespread power outages as well. All this as India and Bangladesh, of course, race to respond to the coronavirus. Ashwad Zargar is following the latest from New Delhi.
Dozens have been killed by cyclone Amphan, which ripped through India and Bangladesh Wednesday afternoon. Even though the cyclone had weakened before it made landfall, it still packed a strong punch, uprooting trees, damaging and flooding houses, sending roofs flying in the sky, and cutting power and communication lines in India's coastal West Bengal and Odisha states. Most of the deaths have been in India's Bengal, where people died from trees falling on them or mud houses collapsing. Bengal's capital, Kolkata, which is one of the top 4 Indian metropolitan cities, shows a trail of destruction left behind by the cyclone. The political head of the state described it as a disaster bigger than coronavirus. More than a dozen have been killed in Bangladesh too, and about 1 million people are without any power in south of the country. Some rural areas and islands have been totally cut off, which is why it may take a few more days to know the actual damage caused by the cyclone. The two countries will be fighting 2 battles for the next few days, dealing with the destruction of the cyclone and the coronavirus pandemic. Arshad Zargar, CBS News, India.
Starting up there at the top. Those are probably 100-foot flames.
March 2020. 31 days the world is not likely to soon forget. It was the month that a new coronavirus that had infected tens of thousands in China became a global pandemic. Take a look at the infection rates. On March the 1st, nearly 89,000 cases of COVID-19, the disease caused by the virus, had been reported worldwide. Then, the vast majority of the cases were still in China, the original epicenter of the disease. By the end of the month, infections worldwide increased nearly 10 times to nearly 860,000 cases, and deaths soared from over 3,000 to more than 40,000. But how did things get so bad so quickly? Early March saw Iran and Italy suffer dramatic increases in infection numbers. Iran's health minister was one of the first public officials to be visibly sickened by the disease. Iran's epidemic reached the top levels of its government, and mass graves were dug in the countryside. In Italy, the virus spread fast, despite early attempts to protect citizens from the novel coronavirus. The nation had already declared a state of emergency by the end of January, after a Chinese couple holidaying in Rome tested positive for COVID-19. Italy reported its first local case on February 20th, but scientists believe the virus had already been circulating in the country for some time. During Italy's peak flu season, people were being diagnosed with influenza, when they may have actually had COVID-19. Infections in Italy rose from 4 cases on February 20th to nearly 106,000 by the end of March. By the end of the month, nearly 12,500 deaths related to COVID-19 were also recorded, more than 3 times the number of fatalities in China. This despite the government ordering a lockdown for the entire country on March the 9th.
La decisione giusta oggi è di restare a casa. Il futuro nostro dell'Italia è nelle nostre mani.
Visiting Chinese medical professionals said more needed to be done.
我看到了他的公交车还在运行，我看到了他的人还在运行，我看到酒店人还在聚会，我看到很多不戴口罩的。
After Italy, Spain has the most COVID-19 related deaths in the world. Nearly 8,500 people died in March. And infections there jumped more than 1,000 times. The Spanish government announced a near total lockdown on March 15th to try to curb the spread of the virus. But after 2 weeks, thousands of new cases are still being reported every day, leaving hospitals overwhelmed and the health service at breaking point. While much of the rest of Europe restricted people's movements, the United Kingdom took a vastly different approach at first. In early March, Prime Minister Boris Johnson and his top medical and scientific advisors said it wasn't necessary for people to change their habits. They hoped to stagger the rate of infection in the British population so as not to overwhelm the public healthcare system. But the government soon changed its tune. A study by Imperial College London showed that the death toll for their strategy could reach as high as 250,000. As the number of new cases accelerated, Johnson was still only encouraging people to self-isolate when sick and to practice social distancing. Restaurants, pubs and entertainment venues remained open until finally on March 20th.
We are collectively telling cafes, pubs, bars and restaurants to close tonight as soon as they reasonably can and not to open tomorrow.
By then, nearly 4,000 people in the UK had tested positive for COVID-19. In the following days, Prince Charles tested positive and then Johnson himself became ill, running the government via video conferencing from self-isolation. Over the course of March, infections in the UK went from 36 to over 25,000. And from 0 fatalities on March the 1st, the country saw nearly 1,800 succumb to the disease by the end of the month.
We're talking about very small numbers in the United States. We've all done a very good job.
That was President Donald Trump at the beginning of March, when there were 158 cases of COVID-19 in the United States. In 2 weeks, infections had risen to 9,197. Despite mixed messaging from the White House, the government did finally urge people to stay at home if they or a family member showed symptoms of the virus, and to limit gatherings to no more than 10 people.
We really want people to be separated at this time.
But in the 2 weeks following the plea, COVID-19 cases in the US increased to more than 188,000. And the death toll shot up to more than 4,000 people. President Trump backtracked from a plan to return America to work by Easter after his task force projected as many as 2.2 million Americans could die from COVID-19 if more action wasn't taken.
The better you do, the faster this whole nightmare will end. Therefore, we will be extending our guidelines to April 30th to slow the spread.
As global COVID-19 cases surged in March, life began to slowly return to normal in mainland China. The number of new infections and deaths plummeted in the country, with the majority of new cases being those imported from overseas. Officials credit the complete lockdown of Hubei province, as well as tight restrictions and quarantine rules in other cities, as being key factors in containing the virus. For many other countries still struggling to stop the spread of COVID-19, the next several weeks are crucial in determining whether April will be better than March.
Breaking news from Lebanon. The capital, Beirut, has been hit by a massive explosion. Dozens of people are said to be injured, and there are some reports of people trapped under the rubble. The cause of the blast is not yet known. It's caused widespread damage and appears to be centered on the city's port area. It is the wave, the blast wave has turned cars upside down. Absolute devastation in the Lebanese capital. Sadly, a country that is used to explosions, but this is of an entire different magnitude altogether. I'm joined here in the studio by my colleague, Joel Adalroy, to talk about this breaking news story. This is altogether something else. We haven't seen anything like that in Lebanon in recent contemporary times.
And these pictures we've been seeing are just incredible, and lots of people have been sharing them on social media that have been captured from the city. You see a massive explosion, a huge white cloud, and then there's another cloud inside that seems to be of a different color, red and so forth. And if you look closely at some of these images, you can see what appears to be flashes inside those clouds. And what we're hearing from some of the state media reports is this could have been involved, there could have been fireworks involved. There's some suggestion that it may have taken place in an area where fireworks were stored. But of course, all of this is conjecture. It has only happened in the last half hour, and we're still just trying to find out what's going on there. And also, we have no idea how many people may or may not be injured in this, but an explosion of that magnitude, you would have to assume that there has to be somebody has been hurt as a result of this.
And as you rightly point out, Joel, we can't rule anything out at this point. It does appear that the blast happened in the port area of the Lebanese capital. Some are presuming that this could have been an industrial accident. Again, I want to caution our viewers as well. We just don't know yet. This is still a very fluid situation. And I want to point out that you're watching live pictures from the area. I mean, an absolute massive explosion. And it comes just at such a terrible time for the country. Its economy in doldrums, protests happening since months. And, well, we just are left to wonder what's going on in the minds of the Lebanese as, again, sadly, they have to deal with this explosion.
So some more of what we're hearing from people on social media who were there in the city. There may have been at least 2 explosions that have been heard across the city. We know that the blast knocked windows out as far as 10 kilometers away from the area where it happened, which again was in the port district of the city. So 10 kilometers away, people's windows were broken, and we can see cars overturned on the road, and it's just sending plumes of smoke up into the sky. And as you said, Leila, this is a city that's certainly known its share of trouble, and you would expect that the people there, well, look at these images. They're just really quite incredible, aren't they?
Billowing smoke, billowing there from what we presume is the port area. There are live pictures that we're showing you, mangled buildings as well. We're going to keep track of the story. You're going to keep track on this breaking news story for us. And well, now we're getting reports of dozens of people injured, which is, of course, something that could be expected, seeing from the devastation that we're seeing right now. Joel Dalroy, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for bringing us the very latest. Do come back, please, to fill us in on the developments there. Authorities in the Philippines are warning that a volcano near the capital could be on the verge of a dangerous eruption. Well, the Taal volcano, about 60 kilometers south of Manila, began spewing ash and lava on Sunday. While Taal sits in a picturesque lake and is one of the most active volcanoes in a region where earthquakes and eruptions are a daily part of life. And Manila's international airport was temporarily closed, and tens of thousands of people have fled, while others are refusing to leave their homes and farms.
Volcanic lightning shoots up into huge ash clouds charged with static electricity. It's just the opening act of what could be one of nature's most dramatic shows. The Taal volcano last erupted more than 40 years ago. Now as steam gushes above and earthquakes rumble below, experts say another massive eruption could be just hours away.
We were afraid and in panic. We were thinking of how we could save our lives.
Tens of thousands of people living in nearby towns have been evacuated. Rain mixed with volcanic ash has coated the roads in thick mud, making driving treacherous.
It's difficult to get food because we can't use the vehicle since it's muddy, and we can't even clean it since there's no water.
Ash is affecting the capital Manila, 60 kilometres north. Face masks are in short supply. At the airport, hundreds of flights have been cancelled. While some tourists are trying to leave, others are getting up close to the volcano.
It's let's say once in a life, experience for us, because we have not this phenomena in our country. So for me, it's very, very, very interesting.
The danger level has now reached level 4, just one notch away from a hazardous eruption, which could affect hundreds of thousands of people living in the volcano's danger zone.
Exactly, with the experts warning now that the volcano eruption could get a lot worse. Let's get you an update of how things are right now. DW correspondent Ana Santos is in the capital, Manila, not very far from the volcanic site where all this rest of activity is taking place. Ana, you visited the site. Can you describe what you saw?
We were up at the site earlier today, about 6 miles away from Taal volcano, and all throughout the day we saw the volcano spewing out ash clouds. These ash clouds were initially like white, and then they turned to gray, and at some point they were also black. On the roads going up to Taal volcano, there was the roads were covered with sludge. This is because of the volcanic ash that mixed with rain. So the roads were very slushy and slippery, and it was very difficult to move from one place to another because the roads were dangerous. Also, the ashfall covered entire swaths of plantations and mostly pineapples in this part of the country. And also, you know, the weight of the volcanic ash, it made the leaves on trees droop. Entire towns were covered in gray. They looked like a black and white photo. Now, against all of this, some people, or most people, didn't really look like they were in a state of alarm. A lot of them were going about their daily business. Like, for example, Tagaytay, which is a very popular tourist site, was still attracting a lot of visitors who were taking selfies in front of the volcano and really mesmerized by the terrifying beauty of its continued eruption. You also saw farmers washing away volcanic ash from their livestock and just trying to go about their daily life, and people were wondering where's the panic or where's the alarm. Now, a lot has been said about the resiliency of Filipinos in terms of coping with natural disasters, but I think that can be drilled down deeper to two factors, both starting with letter F. One is frequency. We are one of the most disaster-prone areas in the world, so we experience natural disasters of all types on a fairly frequent basis. So that kind of over time, you get used to it. And on the other hand, there's also a mix of fatalism, which is very much because of our predominantly Catholic country. So you kind of believe that, you know, these things happen for a reason, and that you can't do anything about it. So you just try to find ways to deal with it the best that you can.
And I just want to get in there very quickly. What will happen to the people? Yes, there is a sense of, you know, we've experienced that before because obviously the Philippines, very disaster-prone, earthquake, typhoons, volcanic eruptions, but still thousands of people have been moved out of harm's way. What will happen to them? Because, you know, they have had to leave their livelihoods behind. Who's taking care of them?
So about 8,000 or 10,000 people have been moved to evacuation centers or to some safer areas. Now, earlier today, the government's latest update was that they're actually preparing for two very extreme scenarios. One is where an eruption can take place over the next couple of days, or a prolonged eruption, which can happen for a series of months. Now, we saw another volcano in another part of the Philippines last year do this. It just erupted continuously over a period of months. And this is something the government will have to prepare for. How are you going to keep these people who are in harm's way safe over a prolonged and indefinite period of time? And how do you do that with a minimal disruption to their lives and their livelihoods? Right now, that's what they're going to be busy with in terms of mapping out the different scenarios and possible interventions.
All right, Ana Santos reporting from Tagaytay. Thank you so very much. Greatly appreciate it.